Payday and Hitman, both game franchises with surprisingly high audience overlap despite their very divergent gameplay paths, with one leaning into the immersive sim genre whilst the other has, over time, become much more of a horde shooter. However, in terms of character suitability from a crossover perspective, I think it's almost hard to believe they haven't done some sort of character crossover in Payday at some point, given Agent 47 would suit the Payday gang to a T with his mercenary attitude and Wick-esque ruthlessness. That's just a pipe dream for now though, meaning we have to get him into Payday 2 the old-fashioned way through a character-themed challenge run. Although the modern Hitman games offer you as complete an arsenal as we have at our disposal in Payday 2 to be honest, in an attempt to keep this easy to follow, I'm going to restrict almost all of them, making this a semi-auto pistol only run, in addition to a few fun tools in the melee and throwable slots. Creative kills are going to be absolutely encouraged. We'll be pushing one of the least popular weapon categories to its absolute limits here, and of course utilising one of the worst perk decks in the game, as we find out if you can beat Payday 2 as Agent 47. Let's run you through the rules so this is clear. The goal is to beat Payday 2's career mode from start to finish, whilst only using pistol category weapons in our primary and secondary slots. Specifically, I won't be allowing machine pistols or revolvers, meaning purely semi-auto, single and akimbo pistols, emulating 47's iconic silver ballers, but also giving us variety to play around with. Weapons like the WA-2000 or Lebensborger in Payday, which do appear quite iconically within the Hitman franchise, will be banned because I think it runs the risk of trivializing the challenge of this one where pistols can actually struggle. All other damage options are fair game though. I'll be running many of Payday 2's weirdest and wackiest melee weapons to give that use what you find feel Hitman is so known for, in addition to lesser used throwables like the incendiary grenade to make the most out of its unique ability. The more creative the better, especially in stealth, where I will also be upping the risk by demanding at least 4 pager carrier kills or a full heist clear where that's not possible to make sure I'm getting my assassination quota in, meaning so many of my dominant stealth strategies won't be possible. Finally, on the bespoke rule front, for once this is a fixed perk deck run, we have to use Hitman. Likely the second worst loud deck in the game, only really coming in ahead of Yakuza, meaning although we have decent lethal options, survivability is going to be a serious challenge, making this run a lot less gimmicky. All other standardized challenge run rules will additionally be followed, so no grinding for cash or XP outside of the career mode, no career AI outside of stealth, and no mods beyond my HUD mod Vanilla HUD Plus. Difficulty wise, it's mayhem as usual up to level 80, at which point we're forced onto Death Wish. For those of you who still want to see me suffer on Death Sentence, don't worry, it's coming sooner than you might expect. Hitman on Death Wish though is already more than enough of a challenge for me. Speaking of, let's dive into this one as Yelwonk transforms into Tobias Reaper. This time we're resetting from a failed run, which will one day see the light of day, and actually inspired the need for me to record this challenge in basically one weekend. More on that later in the year, but for now we're gearing up for the first heist, which once again, thanks to CrimeNet RNG, is a Murky Station. By the way, whilst they are diametrically opposed in personality, Payday 2's best baldy has to be Wolf, so I'm promoting him to Agent 47 stand-in for this video. And thanks to us placing no strict limitation on melee usage, simply need to stick to the game's wackier options, for once I'm free to pick up kills on this heist from the get-go, which is important given the brutal stealth stipulation of this challenge. Battering people with a briefcase encapsulates exactly what I wanted from this run. Unfortunately, the first bloke I bludgeoned also happened to be wandering in front of a camera, requiring an instant reset. I had a smoother initial ride on attempt 2, as although this first guard seemingly morphed from within the train, no one is untouchable in the Payday universe. Least of all, the second fella I first dominated before giving him a not so clean briefcase related end. Unfortunately, without any more body bags on this setup, that guy was bound to be spotted at some point, and there's no way I can deal 480 damage with this melee weapon before a shot is fired. Attempt 3 was also thrown off by this new silent assassin stipulation, requiring me to drop 4 pages worth of guards, as this guy fell in overly dramatic fashion right in front of the only angle a camera could possibly spot. Not a great start to a run that was barely underway, with 4 also going astray when my briefcase's swing speed was just a tiny bit too slow to hit the one-shot kill window down in the underground again, another sloppy attempt at assassination, which led into a slip-up due to my higher than usual detection risk level that's definitely going to see me retiring this melee weapon after the heist is complete. which, mercifully, it was at the 6th time of asking, grabbing 3 of the kills I needed in the underground tunnels, where their bodies don't need to be disposed of, before locating the final EMP part and securing it after 8 minutes. I really do think this one's simpler if you just prioritise the non-lethal approach, but that's just not the Hitman way. Speaking of which, we can now grab the very first perk in the same deck, which is going to make or break the run this time. Hitman, as you very well know, is not very good. Its gimmick of buffing akimbo weaponry in terms of ammo capacity and stability is going to at least be valuable in this run, but seeing as the only way it buffs our survivability is through faster regenerating armor, you should already know that this challenge is going to be a hell of a lot less deck reliant than say something like the Saw run with Stoic. That said, I can pick up a cross kill, Agent 47's very own silver baller, which is a fitting starting weapon, although I'm admittedly relieved I won't be tied to it throughout the entire run. I'm actually grabbing akimbo contractors for my primary slot. Weapon and perk deck hardly matters for the first few heists though, breezing through a stealthy jewelry store first, with just 2 pager carrying guards spawning in for the full Hitman clear, going with the spatula this time for the added disrespect. And although 47 is a professional who doesn't go out of his way to endanger innocents, ruthless efficiency also requires a few sacrifices to be made to keep the cops at bay. But what's a little blood money between friends? A clean enough first time completion. The same is true of Bank Heist, somehow dropping this third guard in full view of the civs waiting to be served, who seemingly suffer from a bad case of elective amnesia and just sit there unblinking. Proper Payday 2 AI, not quite an immersive sim. The fourth guard took a shuriken to the knee for yet another diverse kill method before I ensured no panic buttons were getting pressed this time around. One lengthy drill section later and I was free to actually empty out the vault this time, giving us a nice cash injection for a run that, for once, really needs it to access a surprisingly large pool of viable weapons. One final stealth heist to kick us off though, we need to give the diamond store the same treatment, which isn't possible in attempt 1 as they didn't bother building in the external door to the security room, the bad kind of RNG we keep going on about. The architects got it right in attempt 2, meaning I was free to take cams offline and lure the remaining guards up to the second floor to be dispatched. I can do whatever I'm paid to, so decided to take the cleaner costs on the chin within the store itself, whilst dealing with the final guard, with my bank account saved by 6 cents aced. Did you know, if you smash the glass on the front of the store, the civs won't notice, instead they'll just assume it's the new front door, with these identical twins marching inside one after another like lost lemmings. Yes, this is a set of Bobblehead Bob triplets. I love this game. A short bag moving section later and we're home free for the inevitable switch over to loud on Go Bank. Cross kills all around for this one as I actually have the skill points to go all the way up to trigger happy, already giving me way more damage potential than most challenge builds have up to this stage. Outside of crits later on, this is pretty much as good as it's gonna get for us, and for 8 minutes of this heist, that was more than enough. But a telling lack of drill skills and utilities such as up as aced also leaves me wide open. Even with the heaviest armour currently at our disposal, I'm still made of paper, with shields in particular causing problems, going down for the first time on this run due to that sluggish as hell heal speed. And I'm wasting even more cash on the run back as these ace pilot assets don't come cheap, with just the first wave of shield spawns more than enough to take me down, clambering all over them but unable to get an angle for a kill shot with the cross kill. The sooner I get my hands on the 5.7 the better, but for now I'm prioritising those akimbo primaries, which had a much stronger showing on attempt 3. The chronometer from the espionage pack is an incredible buff for any run which has access to it by the way, perfectly in keeping for the Hitman theme of this one, giving us a safe way to secure some money for the exit without lengthy lockpicking sessions or the use of the saw, and I had cash and the balloon raised on the rooftop within 10 minutes of this one. But here is where I absolutely choked, blocked off by a martial shield who first blinded me himself whilst I surfed on him, and then took full advantage of a 13-second long flashbang which hit me right as my vision started to clear, sending me back into the land of burnt retinas where I will forever remain, as even spamming first aid kits through the blindness wasn't enough to compete with the marshal now he'd whipped out the shotgun. These guys absolutely suck and have made the challenge format so much less bearable over the years. The one solace I take is that I'm starting to get into a groove with these pistols, which also give me a decent enough option up against snipers, at least when compared to my no shooting related challenges from years gone by. This time I was able to reassemble the cage and for once actually defend the bag inside with snipers out the way. Whilst I went seeking justice for myself, starting round 2 with a marshal and his shield posse, I quickly realised that was a bad idea and climbed back up the ladder, instead leaping through the skylight before one final sprint to the sewer drain, making it out of this one swiftly without a bonus bag weighing me down. Keen to test out the viability of as many of the akimbo primaries on this run as possible, I'm running the higher fire rate cross-skill guards for these upcoming armoured transport hits, also switching over to C4 to speed through the escape's arrival, although that didn't exactly work on attempt 1 when I accidentally placed one down instead of dropping the drill, splitting my reserves and making it impossible to actually blast the transport open, requiring an immediate restart for my sanity's sake. I didn't make the same mistake in attempt 2, and again the watch is incredibly good for speeding up the deposit box sections, also covering the drill with the remaining trip mines, as just about any utility goes for codename 47. Sadly though, with no healing in my build due to the mines, it was only a matter of time before I was whittled down and finally taken to the floor just as the second drill was finishing up, deciding to switch back over to FAKs after the C4 experiment failed. I rolled into the park this time, which is just an easier variant of armoured transport in my opinion, clearing this one pretty much without incident, although it is a reminder that haste makes waste, and with more kill-friendly setups like this one, I should probably just trust my ability to survive a few waves, rather than brute force a path through them as quickly as possible. Downtown was my role for the second transport run, falling early into attempt 1 when a skulldozer managed to flank me. Without uppers aced, I'm still fodder for the big guys and can't reliably trade into them DPS wise either. Fortunately, they don't spawn in great numbers on Mayhem difficulty, meaning these demolitions shouldn't be an every heist occurrence. That bet paid off on attempt 2, just needing to deal with standard SWATs and specials whilst moving money up to the rooftop escape, and again, having a proper tool to deal with snipers makes any run proportionally less stressful. Next up on the chopping block, train heist with these rather suave looking akimbo broomsticks, sadly without their precision barrel attachment, which could really take advantage of the Hitman ammo bonus. Even without that gimmick though, they were plenty strong enough for mayhem, avenging myself upon this skulldozer early on. Another massive adaptation for my build has to be switching over to incendiary grenades. Don't get me wrong, these things suck in 99 out of 100 scenarios, but I might have just found the one where they don't, as my build is massively struggling against shields. This is the solution with the most applications outside of just switching weapons. They deal comfortably enough damage to take out shields in a single toss, and with 6 in my tool belt from the start of a heist, that should be enough firepower to dodge those shield-based nightmares that have been an issue so far. Which is just as well because it was almost 15 minutes before I'd made it into the railcar carrying the TF2 Sentry turret, giving shields plenty of opportunities to cause some serious pain. From there though, this one turns into a pure bag moving simulator, tossing those off the cliff closer to the boat side, and shuttling the other ammo bags on the zipline, going in groups of 5 to ensure the cops didn't start moving them back the opposite way. It was slow and cost me 11 FAKs over a 30-minute back and forth, but after finally taking the zipline down myself, a new mechanic on this heist courtesy of the sidetrack team, I was free to make it out with the dregs of my build intact after this marathon of an early game mission. Phase 1 out the way, time to speed through Vlad's initial gimme heist. 4 stores is solved by bringing along C4 with not enough time to actually feel the lack of healing, and the incendiary frag again improving its worth. A simple completion that proves to be easier than its own escape, getting beat copped within 10 seconds of spawning in at the park, a sight I suspect I'll see a fair few times before this run is through, due to Hitman's innate lack of survivability, especially against persistent burst damage. It's fine once past that initial response though, making it through on the second time round. An almost identical down came on my first run of Moorcrasher next, with the beat cops once again deleting me in just a couple of shots early into this one, but at least that gave me the chance to switch over to frags to speed up the actual Moorcrashing section of attempt 2. I just about came out the other side of a similar brush with death early into this one as well, but once the Bronco boys are out the way, I've noticed every heist gets exponentially easier, front-loading the challenge for the most part. Bile took his sweet time circling back around, running low on akimbo ammo as a result, but the trusty cross kill, which I'm sticking with for its sniper killing prowess, held out for a 6.5 minute clear. Not much to write home about on why Xmas next, outside of the fact that the very second present I opened had bloody Almir's toast inside, a 1% roll which had taken me over an hour to locate last time it was required for a challenge to proceed. Just the way of it really, sending Harudin back to safety just as snipers started spawning in to ruin my day, a prevailing theme of this run, and escaping with the toast for a fairly nice payday this early on. Nothing happened on Ukrainian job, unsurprisingly, with just 2 guards on the map for me to silently take out, clearing the least eventful heist of the run so far and progressing onto the difficulty spike that is Meltdown. After locating the vault in the first container I opened, I was again reminded why the chronometer is a must-bring on half the heists in the game now, getting my hands on the first crowbar with absolute ease. Ethics are a bit of a grey zone for 47, but when stealing nukes for a potentially immortal Ukrainian baker, I'm the instrument, the rest is details. No questions asked on this one, as the Payday gang tipped the geopolitical stability scales for shits and giggles really. I feel like the good agent would also have some serious affinity for the painfully slow vehicular manslaughter provided by the forklift trucks. Again, this heist is made infinitely more bearable by actually having access to a sniper killing tool, with the cross-kill's decent accuracy coming into play across the miles for this oddly stretched out heist. Not to mention, including Shotgun or Aced in my build is really paying off, covering for that deficiency against shields with a swift 1-2 pan pistol combo. I very nearly found myself completely caught out between a sniper and a SWAT van turret on the drive back to deliver the second batch, but for the first time on this run, FAKs and the faster armor recharge from Hitman might have made a tangible difference, making it back up the loading bay to secure the final 4 warheads and drive to safety for a surprisingly low cortisol spiking meltdown. More of the same on Aftershock, which follows straight after, as snipers don't bother showing up on this one for once, an RNG roll I've killed for on other more distantly challenged runs. Yes, I brought javelins for this one. No, I have no idea why when they kill slower than my pistols in most situations, but again, I'm just loving the rare bit of variety this run offers. Some satisfyingly elastic road rage kills in the truck followed my journey over to pick up the safes, with the sniper no-show leaving me with more than enough heals to hold out at the exit rather than running back for the final charge. This build is already proving more than a match for the likes of Meltdown and Aftershock, giving me some serious confidence heading into the mid-game. With enough skill points for Hostage Taker Aced, I'm able to freely run a full utility setup over on Stealing Xmas without worrying about a lack of heals, although I didn't even end up needing the C4 thanks to, once again, the Watch. On the quiet, maybe this DLC was kinda pay to win, but I'm gonna let them off because I bloody love it. Snipers on the roof hardly posed a threat when setting up the charges for escape, where this poor bloke made a fatal error of trying to hop aboard, turning into some sort of cryptid via diesel engine transformation as a result of that poor timing. The agony of Nightclub is up next, the heist I seem to disproportionately hate as a result of these stupid challenges. My James Bond accessory once again comes in clutch though, giving us access to the safes without drills or keycards. Of course, this guy shoots on death though, meaning we have the joy of doing the second half of this one in loud, with lengthy drilling sections which flow into even longer waiting sections whilst Twitch gets his arse in gear, with the greatest risk being falling asleep, hence why I'm running without the crew AI to ensure my hybrid setup can make it through this the first time of asking. The one moment of levity occurred when this shield looked to get himself into a portal-related accident, with his torso and legs bisected by the bloody roof. Even when taking explosives out of the equation, Payday always delivers top-tier ragdolls, at least clearing this one with a smile on my face, which quickly faded when I saw I was being subjected to yet another park escape, this time at night. Wow, 5 minutes of my life I'll never get back. Watch Dogs from Hector showcase the power of the Molotov, another throwable that's painfully slept on outside of its utility for activating the Berserker skill. For the most part, on day 1, the cops just delivered the bags of coke exactly where I needed them, escaping in the armoured van as soon as it pulled up. Day 2 is more of the same, grabbing my 10th kill with the push daggers to complete knife legislation, and unlocking the Parabellums, another set of pistols I'm intrigued to try out on this run. That was the most noteworthy occurrence on the entire heist though, escaping as soon as Bile rocked up about 7 minutes in. 2 major additions to my build to discuss before heading into Firestarter next though. Firstly, I don't think snipers are enough of a threat to prevent me from running the 5.7 as a secondary. Everyone hates power until you offer them some, and this thing basically invalidates shields, whilst also having the concealment to fit into any setup. Although it trades off the ammo supply and economy of a standard pistol for all that, it's still not exactly ammo inefficient itself. All in all, as a true secondary weapon, not something more focused like the Commando rocket launcher, I'd say it's probably the best in the entire game, despite falling into the usually unpopular pistol category, meaning this massively enhances my build at this stage of the run. Thanks to that addition, I can now save on Shotgun or Aced and instead spec into Gun Nut Aced for a massive fire rate increase, which really does positively impact our DPS at this stage in the run. As for Firestarter, up next, day 1 is much easier these days with the chronometer to open bonus rifle bags. I didn't get a great gas tanker spawn to speed this one along, meaning I was lugging the weapons up the hill for a good 10 minutes, but outside of a few FAK saves, this one's not likely to cause too many issues so far into the run. The Parabellums felt decent here with their bonus damage and low ammo count offset by Hitman, but don't expect them to become a massive staple of the run when high fire rate pistols just feel infinitely better into dozers. Once we step it up to Death Wish, I think those are going to turn into a necessity. For the moment though, this is more than enough to deal with the likes of Firestarter Day 2, securing the first server at a fairly rapid pace, before just about tanking my way to a 6-minute exit, with my own deficiencies covered up for by the power of the first aid kit. Although I wasn't in the least bit setting out to stealth Day 3, which is the bank heist reprisal, a couple of lucky kills and the Watcher's ability to basically skip the need for keycards means I just sort of wandered into getting this one done cleanly. I have no idea what's wrong with this guy's eyesight, by the way. I assume he's just engrossed in his work, or alternatively just hates his boss. All the trappings of a career in finance. Somehow, despite his interest being piqued throughout the entirety of the drilling section, he never cottoned onto the body in his line of sight, allowing me to leave him breathing like the professional I am, and clear this one without a loud response. Hector's final job, Rats, is front-loaded towards the cook-off section, but my newly purchased M13 9mm pistols made short work of the meth lab defense. I'm already starting to see the value of these higher capacity rapid firing pistols, which are the closest stand-ins for the more meta-centric machine pistols, which are sadly not allowed by this rule set. Also, the Viper grenades really do trivialise large sections of the holdout with their crazy damage radius, fleeing this one in the usual fashion. Now for once, I actually managed to fail an attempt on Day 2, getting caught out when trying to steal back the meth from the Vipers, again proving just how crap Hitman is for survivability, and how badly punished it is by the suppression window, never able to proc that rapid armor regeneration due to my armor being suppressed, pretty much invalidating the whole gimmick. Anyway, lesson learned, I decided just to go quietly the second time around and let the gangsters keep their drugs. The fleeing Mendozas will not be so lucky, although I still found the time to go down on Day 3, which is another rarity indicative of my build's clear frailties. The run back was more successful, gassing out the bus for another novel assassination method, and progressing onto the Elephant's set of jobs. Big Oil is first on the chopping block, as usual cleaning out the Overkill MC safe house under the cover of ECM jammers for a comparatively quiet Day 1. I also grabbed the plane key asset for Day 2, a really cool mechanic that we never saw come back for future multi-day heists. Moving on to the hit on the isolated mansion, although the watch gave me instant access to the security system, I got caught looking out for the engine specs, forcing this one loud sooner than I would have liked. The back and forth with the power boxes is made worse by also forgetting to equip a flashlight, but even so I'm not really in much risk of dying on this one. Sniper coverage is minimal, and my DPS in the close quarter setting is more than sufficient to keep the cops off my armor most of the time. Fleeing to the plane escape unlocked by Day 1 in just over 10 minutes with only one FAK usage. Framing Frame has even more stressful powerbox sections, but we need to get there first, stealthing Day 1 with 4 paintings in tow, making sure to pick up a full set of 4 takedowns and escape under ECM cover, with Day 2 being a total non-issue as a result of the stealth clear. I'd rather run Hitman on DSOD than Stealth Day 3 though, so we instead switch over to a full loud approach, again speeding through the initial drilling section at the penthouse thanks to the watch. This attempt was going swimmingly, with the Parabellums pulling their weight, avoiding any FAK usages with just 3 minutes left on the world's most interrupted hack. But, such is the Hitman's fate, one swift punch from a dozer is all it takes to hit the ground in an instant, exposing the Parabellum's core weakness, that being its relatively low mag capacity, missing out on a key bullseye proc that might have saved me in that instant. Not the heist I appreciate being put through more often than necessary, but at least the 5.7 is making shield pushes less of an issue, maintaining solid uptime on the hack. My life flashed before my eyes with just 10 seconds left on the upload remaining, somehow surviving this 1-2 punch from a Reinfeld dozer, and just about getting to the vault area with my head still attached, narrowly avoiding a serious rage quit moment. I'm sure there won't be a theme of last second heartache across this run. Election day next, with a bit of educated guesswork securing the warehouse Day 2 by process of elimination. Speaking of, again I reach my body count quota under cover of ECM on the way out. Now, without a saw on Day 2, finding the voting machines is a little bit tricky, although it was a classic chain reaction failure that saw a premature end to attempt one early on. Not a massive setback though, as I picked up a few discrete kills to ensure the pager limit could be reached, before locating the 6 voting machines necessary for completion and simply ECM rushing the final hack duration for this one, leaving just a couple of guards left on the map by the time we were back in the van. The elephant out the way for now, the dentist is next on the scene with a blackmail introduction, but names are for friends, so I don't need one. Big Bank is the calm before the storm for this section of any Payday 2 challenge run, but try as I might to look like a seasoned professional, I just can't help myself but rack up at least one death by gravity, trying to crash through the skylight with a pair of pliers, and not quite nailing the landing 5 minutes into attempt 1. When I'm not busy self-sabotaging, this one really is quite straightforward, getting lucky with the PC to start the time lock early, and easily defending the thermite with a pair of Leo pistols. Naturally, I also have the elevator trick favor set up for the lowest risk challenge run pre-planning combo, because freedom from choice is also freedom. An easy 4-bag escape which sees us hit an important milestone. Yep, that's level 80 before Hotline Miami, a result of me running the XP booster on most of my pistols for the first time in a long time. Why? I'm not 100% sure, but maybe it was just a desire to speed things along after how slow the Saw run felt. But this means a significant leap up to Deathwish difficulty for the far from straightforward Hotline Day 1 up next. More than ever, I'm going to need a clean performance to manage this with what feels like a very unfinished build, and missing the final perk in Hitman, which has the chance to make it feel more viable. On the plus side, the mobsters failed rapidly, meaning I had the gas on the cars set up before the full wave hit, taking out the first wave of snipers and setting up C4 before things fell out of my control. This just leaves the hatch-ripping objective to clear, which can mostly be performed within the safety of the motel, and of course once inside the basement there's nowhere near enough SWAT spawn density to ever be at risk. After locating the commissar, I did everything in my power to taste as much sniper lead as possible, before eventually getting fed up and just sprinting to the DeLorean for a first time completion. But that sniper headache was just a taste of what's to come up on the top floor of the commissar's apartment block. On both attempts 1 and 2 of this one, I made it up there with little to no trouble, only to be completely decimated by the initial sniper spawns that totally outranged my build. A 100 accuracy secondary could help here, but without the ability to tweak my build in heist since this is a multi-dayer, I'm forced to persevere as is. At least in attempt 3 I managed to drop the fixed green dozer spawns without too great an FAK cost, meaning I can lay these out across the top floor to hopefully function as life preservers when stray sniper rounds inevitably strike this glass cannon setup. Following my usual approach of simply letting the apartment burn and tanking the fire damage with Die Hard to fix the drill, this meant all the cops were simply filtered into this side room, just about scrambling to deal enough damage to stay afloat, but at least only needing to cover the 2 main entrances as the cops won't bother traversing the fire themselves. With 10 minutes on the clock, the drill's job's done, meaning there's just one target left to eliminate. This room, this bullet, there's a bullet for everyone, and a time, and a place, an end for the commissar, avoiding any stray sniper rounds on the sprint to the chopper for a 3rd time clear by the barest of margins. That was a wake-up call though. To hang on Deathwish, I need to kill faster than ever before, because I've just about hit my tankiness threshold with this heavy ballistic vest setup. But I can at least take advantage of the high concealment innate to the pistol weapon category to re-equip low blow for crits. And with Tooth and Claw finally complete within my perk deck, this is about as powerful as we'll ever be, with armor always returning to me after 1.5 seconds so long as it isn't being actively suppressed. This setup feels much more powerful and survivable, making modern art on the streets of DC early into day 1 of Hotston Breakout. You can very tangibly see how Tooth and Claw can save the day during this run-in with a pair of minigun dozers, who I have the DPS for, but worry about my ability to trade into. If you watch carefully, you can see that the initial armor break, which then gets gated by Bullseye, procs the 1.5 second regen timer, meaning although I have had armor since, it still fully recovers 1.5 seconds on, effectively giving me double the armor gate. Whilst this is far weaker than, say, Anarchist's 2 seconds of invulnerability, it still leans into a similar playstyle concept, enabling me to make aggressive trades more effectively than it might first appear. It's just really tricky to know when this is going to activate and save the day, meaning most of the time when it does, it's mostly off the back of a vibes-based play, which I suppose is good enough for a player of my level. Hitman again came in handy after I luckily located the control room with my second chronometer usage, bearing in mind it can only open 3 doors max here. Fighting off another pair of dozers who could have easily put an end to this one, using the 5.7's pen effect to fire through the window of this car and take out the school dozer from behind cover, the final heart-in-mouth moment of day 1 at least. Day 2 still showed this build to be fallible after a few close calls in the evidence room before getting soloed by this heavy SWAT whilst again reloading my parabellums. It really is kill or be killed for us at the moment, and as strong as they are, I'm worried I might need to lean towards better handling akimbos moving forward. Still, we run it back for attempt 2, and I can't stress enough just how important these FBI unit hostages are. They do crazy DPS compared to most Jokers, and although they also lack body armor, that genuine support potential takes some of the heat off us. That brings the mission down to the first escapade down in the archives, where a close call with this dozer was followed by a second dozer's mysterious disappearance. I'm not complaining though, as a school dozer might have put an end to this one immediately. This time I managed to picklock open the evidence room during a pause in the assault wave, meaning I wasn't held up at the analysis section, meaning after securing the server for objective number 3, this heist was all but in the bag. Resilience Ace earned a place in the build on my way down to the escape, as we already know how out of control these shield flashbangs can get otherwise, avoiding heartache on the way back to the entrance with the main server in tow, using up a keycard I'd held back for a clean getaway. We're really getting somewhere now, moving on to Hoxton Revenge, where again, the pseudo-stealth approach can get us fairly far. Yet again, I utilised the security guard laser tech to make it inside without locating the alarm box, although I have no idea why his body doesn't set off the lasers here anyway. That bullet dodged, I was able to make more progress in stealth than anticipated, and even secure a bag of evidence before the alarm was inevitably raised. Everyone's a hypocrite, most significantly the rat Hector, who I blasted back to the live-action series within a second of his panic room opening up. Sniper coverage on the roof was minimal, meaning it was easy enough to secure the final 5 bags to complete this one, first time of asking. I repeated that feat over on the Diamond, where once again the hybrid approach is doing me wonders, leveraging my low detection risk as standard, even with my loud build equipped, to gain access to the second exhibit room before my crimes on the opposite side of the museum was spotted, cutting down the security hack to just a minute and a half. The second time lock defense was a little spookier, but I think I'm onto a winner with these Leos in terms of damage and control, making it inside the Diamond's chamber and actually rolling a very simple pressure plate pattern, meaning no need to reset and drill. I just charged across the room and back to the courtyard for a final holdout in the security room before making it out scot-free. After all that success in stealth recently, I'm emboldened to try out the same over on Golden Green Casino, although fell short early into attempt 1 due to the strange instant sieve detection mechanic which has plagued this heist before. Sometimes, rather than slowly detect your movement, sieves specifically will instantly react to a swift change of state, say from crouch to jumping or sprinting, which is a common stealth player habit even for part-timers such as myself, and is extra odd when you consider you can basically phase through sieves masked up in certain circumstances without ever getting spotted. Attempt 2 also sadly suffered the same fate right before the final objective after shutting down cams. Admittedly, this had been a very sloppy run, going through body bags like candy early on. I still don't understand how this movement led to instant detection, when the guy wasn't even looking my way. A crushing reset this close to victory without the hybrid approach on the table. And the suffering doesn't end there, as whilst obtaining the bottle to spike the VIP with the room key I need, I once again got quite inexplicably caught on the same cursed staircase. If anyone knows the reason why, I genuinely love these freak detections explained, because as far as I can tell, this guy spotted me instantly through the gap in the railing, as I certainly couldn't see him. Now that was enough for me to spit my dummy out and call stealth a bust, switching over to the usual BFD method with all the added risk that comes from going loud. Fortunately, my build feels just about competent enough to push back even on Death Wish, staying on top of the drill setup process and using the loud entry limo to refill my pistols when necessary. The BFD itself is much higher maintenance, but with only one external power socket thanks to my pre-planning, it wasn't too hard to keep churning, in true Hitman fashion, making full use of the bathroom excuse to keep the beast's water tankers full. Once the drill's done, the risk of failure on the escape is relatively low, trudging the dentist's coffer back towards the entrance for a 20-minute loud completion after wasting far longer than that messing around in stealth. With that stealth frustration in mind, I decided to upgrade my arsenal with the Gecko M2 pistols, which have that iconic shotgun launch effect despite being stuck in the pistol category, giving me yet another fun new way to pull off assassinations just in time for the bomb dockyard, which I can really leverage this ragdolling ability on, launching this bloke far away from where he's ever likely to get spotted to bring us up to 3 pager usages. I've really found my stealth groove for this heist these days, easily making up to the ship moving section on the first run through, although this was a tight spot I found myself in, amazed this bloke's salmon dive wasn't caught in 4K right next to the docks. As it wasn't, I was free to clean up, already securing the kills necessary to escape with the 4 bomb parts, almost as soon as I boarded the Moretta. Scarface Mansion is another heist which gives me the opportunity to have some fun with body physics, give myself a mandatory contract to clear all 18 of the patrolling guards without pages outside the core building. If you've been watching this series for a while, you'll know that means plenty of restarts, as landing all 18 takedowns without getting spotted on a camera or a shot being heard inside the inaccessible mansion is a bit of a crapshoot, running up against a wall on the first 4 attempts early on. Number 5 was far better executed though, clearing this first run up to the courtyard thanks to the body launching functionality, and methodically working my way across the grounds before finally starfishing this guy directly into the ocean with a 10 out of 10 entry. That's just the first hurdle surmounted though, getting into a bit of a jam on my way to open up the entire mansion, just about managing to juggle these pages and body bags in time to maintain the final 2 in order to clear the main Scarface room, leading up to Ernesto Souza, as this makes moving the loot infinitely easier. At least that's usually the case. Not sure what's going on here with the Siamese guard, who seems to be capable of keeping watch in both directions simultaneously, but fortunately his eyesight's not the best. Souza in the ground, escape is all but guaranteed as the patrolling roof guards get a little suspicious of the corpses lying around apparently, but not enough to call this in, securing all 6 bags and making it out in sub 10 minutes. Crime Spree is a non-event this far into the run, bringing us back, in effect, to Overkill difficulty, where even though I forgot to bring C4, this harbour armed transport is a total formality. Heading into Counterfeit with a pair of White Street pistols next, I managed to completely forget to re-equip first aid skills after the Crime Spree, when this one appeared doomed from the start. However, with the safe drilled in record time, and a successful defense of the water pipes not once being interrupted, within 10 minutes, the printing plates were already mine. Quick enough that snipers, who I suspected would punish my lack of healing, never even spawned in, sprinting to, shockingly, one of the easiest clears of the entire run. First World Bank was much more of a slog though, in exchange, running into all the dozers who must have got lost back in Florida, resulting in a very resource intensive drilling section to even make it up to the vault. All that practice meant I absolutely teared through the 4 fixed green dozer spawns once inside the vault, but bag moving was anything but a formality, with the massive health pool dozers absorbing more ammo than I could really afford to use up from my white streaks, which are strong and consistent, but clearly run into some ammo issues as I spent most of this back and forth on absolute dregs, just having to brute force the bags down the loot shaft half the time. After refueling back up next to the entrance though, the escape was far easier, siding through the shield blockade and first timing this one, much to my relief. The return to Murky Station next, and here's where I usually script. This was easy as I'd done it at level 0, but it's a double-edged sword of the geckos on display, launching this Merc's body down into the tracks, out of range of being able to answer his pager, failing this initial attempt. The run back was clean though, even managing to land a 3-pointer on this guard, launching him in off the backboard to answer that pager in peace. God, I miss weapon launch in Payday 3. With both EMP parts located within 4 minutes, this was a smooth clear, although a failure in a sense as I sort of tripped on the escape zone and forgot to take out another couple of guards for the official 4-kill clear. I was too slow to stop this and hit restart, meaning I'd be breaking the rules no matter what if I ran this back due to the bonus XP. Seeing as I've already done this challenge the first time around, I'm just choosing the truth I like, but rest assured the karmic impact of this decision will come back to haunt me. Moving on to boiling points, I couldn't have had a worse setup for the outdoor section in my opinion, as the lack of cover means suppression as a mechanic we're almost constantly forced to deal with, so my ballistic vest is barely even helping out. However, it wasn't that which got me on attempt 1. Instead, I felt almost instantly with a full set of FAKs in reserve when this random SWAT falcon punched me halfway across the snowfield at the exact same moment the AA gun blew open the wall and spawned in 2 fully alert LMG dozers, who had dropped me to my knees before I'd even noticed they were there. A surefire learning opportunity I decided to blatantly ignore after a doomed attempt 2, when yet again on the 3rd run, I blew open the wall to be greeted by a dozer unfazed by the shell shock who 1v1'd me with ease. On attempt 4, the dozer on the other side of the wall fell to the ground, as I'm used to, meaning no such bad luck making it inside the compound. Turrets also didn't bother spawning in, meaning the body scanning section went almost completely uninterrupted, so my attention shifts to the escape, gaining absolution for my earlier troubles with one of the least contested waltzers across the tundra I can recall. Once the dozers at the exit were put down, I only need to take a few pot shots at the snipers on the other side to pretty much clear safe passage down to the escape chopper, a massive relief on a build that actually really struggles up against sniper pressure. Santa's workshop has caused more than a few problems as of late due to its intense spawn logic, which can overwhelm, even though its objective through line is exceptionally simple. Here though, I at least have the DPS to respond in kind, holding out inside the warehouse before allowing the cops to move a few bags over by one of the 2 potential loot secure locations, ensuring I'd not have far to travel no matter the RNG roll. This strategic adaptation was a roaring success, lobbing the 4 bags required for escape to open up, and fleeing this one in decent time without any heart-in-mouth moments for once. Car shop is also hardly worthy of mention, cruising to a bloody victory on this one, making sure I didn't make the same mistakes as on Murky Water Take 2 before riding off into the sunset. The vehicle obsession era carries on with the biker heist next, my personal vote for the worst heist in the game, at least as far as day 1 is concerned, although Nightclub has been storming through the ranks rapidly of late. Massacring the police response on this heist takes the pressure off, especially if you can easily deal with the skulldozer, as my build can. It also helps that the mechanics set up as far away from the stationary turret as possible for the defense sections. Sadly, although this build has ample DPS for this stage in the run, it's undoubtedly lacking in defensive capabilities, meaning within seconds of heading outside after snipers started spawning on this one, I was resoundingly put in the ground, probably centimeters outside of uppers range. Take 2 was also lucky enough to roll into that favourable RNG, meaning no turret pressure to worry about, whilst also getting the special part objective out of the way almost immediately, meaning I wasn't contending with snipers whilst having to cross from one side of the map to the other. By the time they hit, I was busy picking up the chrome skull indoors, with what I believe to be an ingenious tech of Nimble Aced giving me the ability to lockpick safes, except I forgot this sort of works for solo stealth because of crew AI interaction bonuses. Solo, during a loud section, you can look forward to a painstaking 45-second interaction just for this small safe, something I assumed I wouldn't be afforded the luxury to complete, but my jokers are absolute beasts, successfully distracting the SWATs for the full duration and allowing me to do this objective about 2 minutes faster than usual. One final mechanic defense at the end of it all, and although I imbibed a ridiculous number of FAKs and set out a trail to protect my escape, I eventually made it out, not before beaching the bike and needing to shuffle around whilst getting peppered from all sides. A heart-in-mouth ending, but still enough to graduate to day 2 with my dignity intact. And whilst I'm more than prepared to abandon it if it means clearing this absolute dice roll of a heist, that doesn't appear to be necessary, just about tanking the chopper-mounted SWAT turret with a timely Hitman reset, and having the DPS with the bullet hose M13s to eventually work down the unheadshotable boss's health bar, and then sprinting straight past the preoccupied minigun dozer who doesn't have a chance in a foot race. Making it out in sub 3 minutes, which must be close to a record across this series. But the torture doesn't end there, with Panic Room up next, my old nemesis with its sniper section just as likely to give this rule set some trouble. First though, we complete the World of Assassination gauntlet of Hector, the Commissar, Biker Boss and finally Chavez, at least outside of the later DLC additions. Freeing the Panic Room was a simple job with full drill skills at this point, but the sniper spawns unsurprisingly slowed down progress. Staying up on the roof gives them too many angles to take pot shots from, and by the time my cover literally crumbled in the face of a dozer, I decided to reset down to the floors below, painstakingly trying to secure an angle with a safe shot, which took almost 5 minutes in total, landing the final round right as my pre-placed FAK saved the day. The same was true when placing C4 on the roof, as even the ample cover provided by flashbangs was only enough through another cheeky uppers revival. From there though, this one is now pretty much a formality, as I've learned to simply return to the safer lower floors and wait out the assaults, rather than try to challenge these rooftop spawns, which always seem to outstrip my DPS, regardless of build quality. As such, after attaching the magnet, defending the helicopter mostly consisted of staying safe down in the front office, taking some time to appreciate the great floating cop corpses back on the roof, shortly before Bile finally decided to take off, clearing my historic rival on first contact, which is always a relief. Another sniper-filled adventure is up next for Brooklyn 1010, as I found out Sharon is in fact immortal, as he decided to become a pacifist and not fire back even with these gangsters unloading Mach 11s from point-blank range. My fascination at this slowed down progress, as the other cop waves won't spawn until you drop the first one, but thanks to the assets in spawn, I didn't make it onto the next section any worse off as a result. And yet, despite holding out far better than I anticipated, and with the briefcase ready to take to unlock the escape section, I had a sudden lapse of judgment. Call me Benny, because I didn't realise this guy had survived a bullet to the face, which turned out to be a fatal mistake when I turned my back on him and he courier sixed my ass with an almighty melee blow, which one-shot my armour. That's just how frail this setup is. But when I'm on my A game, it's not so bad, making it back to the drill defense section on attempt 2, utilising the 5.7's wall penetration to kill snipers without risk, and just about repelling the waves of dozers who were way too excited to rush me down right before the assault wave ended. With a moment of respite, I took the time to acquire the briefcase once more before running to the escape zone and using the chronometer to open up a nice hidey hole whilst the immortal tank that is Charon limped over to us, setting up FAKs to cover the final car moving section of this one without too much to write home about. For once, I'd say the yacht heist might have been even more eventful after I was forced to get my hands dirty and chuck half the passengers aboard the boat, overboard. Not really 47 style, but I suppose this is Payday 2. It doesn't work that way, not here. Sometimes you have to crack a few eggs to keep a heist going. Unfortunately, this did lead me into using my third pager, which, if you're not aware, means I can't take out both guards during the annoyingly close quarters server overheating objective. I tried to take one out silently but didn't launch him far enough away, and with awful timing, found things going loud right as the hard drive opened up, bearing in mind an ECM jammer would have halted the override. Still, with 30 seconds to make it out before the point of no return, my timing was just about good enough, and fortunately I'd forgotten to bring the crew AI, so you can't even accuse me of cheating by not stealthing this one. Undercover next, another sniper-laden heist, but fortunately the car with the taxman inside fell directly into the staircase, meaning no need for me to engage. After escorting him down to the bottom floor, this turned into your standard holdout style objective, barring a few sprints upstairs to keep the power on, although if anyone knows what happened here, I'd be eternally grateful. You see, the power was pulled right as the second hack ended and seemingly completed. This meant that the interaction to switch the PC back on was available, and once I turn it back on, it inexplicably started the third hack without a password. You can see it on the hood. I was still able to interrogate the taxman one final time and officially start the third hack, but at that point it was already half done, resulting in total confusion when Bane just told me to leave immediately, even without the hard drive. Kind of a cool skip, which I think could theoretically speed this heist up in, say, a speedrun setting, but good luck getting the cops to comply with a perfectly timed power down. Even at the escape, sniper pressure was noticeably minimal, opening up the clean getaway and straight into the dread that is Slaughterhouse. Truthfully, the toughest heist across most runs, although at least this time I actually have the means to return fire once we hit the sniper section. Just getting there is no mean feat though, needing to be saved by an early adaptation I'd made to include feigned death in my build. Every run seems to have a breaking point for this luck-based strategy, and for 47 it just happens to be Slaughterhouse, justifying its inclusion as this skulldozer rushed me down during the drilling section. I didn't waste the life I was given though, pushing on to the outdoor section of this heist with a fairly well-stocked medicine cupboard, something I needed to rely on heavily once I started moving the bags of gold, facing down a SWAT van turret which would suppress my armor far too well if left intact. The Shimano Customs have already sealed a spot in my build for these more drawn-out ammo-dependent heists, eventually winning the war of attrition against the turret van to at least give me a chance up against the now spawning in Overwatch. With the first 4 bags in the hold, the run back for the second half of the payload was also held up, increasing the risk of a stray sniper bullet taking me down, bearing in mind they demolish about 50% of my health pool even through armor. If caught at the wrong moment, I wouldn't have a chance to fire back, which is why I was gutted I forgot to pick up the second gas canister required to set the trap, forcing me into yet another terrifying gauntlet to get this heist moving forward. However, a bit like on Panic Room, I've generally learned better than to hold out by the objective, instead resetting the spawns back within the slaughterhouse itself during the first moving section, only returning when it's time to lift the gold out. Unfortunately, here I got completely held up and was forced to remain in this single entrance container in constant waking fear of the wrong type of dozer turning the corner. Mercifully, that moment never came, and although the escape tried to ruin my day with horrible fixed spawns, without a physical roadblock I was simply able to dash on through for an unbelievable first time clear. Feigned death to thank for that one, albeit about 20 minutes before actually making it out. With that, we move on to Beneath the Mountain, breezing through the first few minutes of this one thanks to pretty kind RNG as we enter the compound. The good luck continued on the way down to the control center, as shields here are much preferred to dozers, and with no issues finding the loot types necessary to clear this one, I was incredibly well stocked for the radar objective, tanking a fair few sniper rounds but never threatened with lethal damage. An assured completion of a mission that can throw a spanner in the works from time to time, blasting off towards its much more dangerous brother. Not least during the skydiving section, as on Birth of Sky you're completely at the mercy of your build and cop AI whilst in freefall. Although it's not good for much, amusingly the armor gate potential of Hitman was enough to save me on the way down for attempt 1, landing perfectly to call in Locke for the first pallet and start repairing the second one before he arrived, giving me a massive time advantage ahead of the sniper spawns. Even so, I wasted a further tech whilst holding out at this money bundle as my newly equipped Messiah charge was used up after I took more damage than anticipated from what I assume was an ISMA dozer across the map. Messiah, the less RNG heavy older sibling of Feigned Death, ensures an immediate revive on kill, but this is not when I intended to use it, hoping it might be the lifeline I need to survive the ambush at the sewers. Without it, a couple of minutes later, this run was doomed. If the 3 skulldozers spawn, especially at the first gate, there's very little I can do to live long enough, as their AI functions as my only defense of offense, and 3 dozer health bars are a bridge too far, even for this build. I'll spare you the details on attempt 2, as I again used up the insta-revive charge whilst defending the final pallet, overconfidently trading into 2 dozers at range, leaving me totally powerless against another ambush down in the underground. I mean, I probably should be forgiven for this one, bearing in mind the bloody dozer seems to have shot me through the wall, a bug in the geometry of this heist I'm thankful to say I've never encountered before, because that might be the first time in recent memory I'm entirely vindicated for my crash out. Told you karma was out to get me. As is often the way though, on the third attempt at this one I again paced myself well, avoided the down before the sewer section, and then ended up not needing Messiah once down there, as the school dozer spawned alongside shields this time, rather than there being 3 of the bastards. Better to have and not use it though, as we sprint to the exit on this one feeling entirely unsatisfied. The return of the classics now with Heat Street, where I can showcase the power of a single flashbang by sprinting around this first corner thanks to its cover, when this spot has so frequently been a pain point on this series. Matt thinks he can still get away, but no chance, not with 47 on his tail, dragging him out of the burning vehicle and halfway up the road. By the way, knockdown is a funny old mechanic. The leather sap is great for this stat, which maybe doesn't get the credit it deserves, fully stun locking these 2 idiots for more than long enough to take them out. Maybe a challenge idea that's just awakened within me. Back on the challenge at hand, rounding this corner at the parking lot turned out to be a mistake, as I was hit by all sorts, not least a sniper round, and dropped immediately, with the whims of feigned death deciding to allow me to continue. Further up the road, things got even dicier as I was running on fumes by the time I reached the top of the hill with Matt, clearly not prioritising ammo economy well enough, and left panicking at the escape lest Bile fly back to the other LZ. This saw me overstep and go down after killing the guy who put me there, but thanks to not shooting this minigun dozer and undoubtedly incurring his fatal wrath, my patience in waiting for another victim to walk up the road was rewarded, landing that all-important last-second Messiah revival, taking out the dozer and dragging the target out of this one. Sadly, I wouldn't be quite as lucky on Green Bridge, where after a frantic start saw me activate Feign Death not once, not twice, but on 3 consecutive occasions. Now I've dropped Messiah from this build, I just used up all my luck in one go. Healing up with a medic bag for even more rolls of the dice turned out to not be enough, as of course the 2 lazy school dozers at the final escape honed in on me just meters from safety, audibly groaning when I was dropped before scrambling to place first aid. Of course, Feign Death didn't care to save me, in the one instance I would have really appreciated it. With a bit between my teeth on attempt 2 though, I freed Kazuo in much better time, and with a lot less early death, meaning we were on the move during a laid back break in the assault wave. This time I shot down the chopper mounted turret which had gnawed through my heels on the first attempt, before the pilot shockingly made the pickup on his first flyover. Lesson learned, this is not a flee from dozer sort of run, as we've already ascertained the only thing it has going for it is DPS, instead flanking around them and taking both out before they could ruin my day this time, a spotless clear that didn't make the previous late failure any easier to take. Alaskan Deal piled on the misery as I was blindsided again by a sniper spawn whilst distracted by a dozer, putting a swift end to attempt 1 and a heist that rarely causes issues. That anecdotal assumption was furthered by attempt 2 at this one, breezing through the fueling section this time and getting to enjoy the power of the cross-kill chunky pistols, some of the best named guns in the game. Somehow I let this green dozer wander up and end me with his usual 1-2 melee combo, but the 45% gamble paid off this time, opening up a path to escape via the boat, which yet again took off almost immediately with seemingly no spawns preventing the fade to black. Moving on to the classic diamond heist, I've been favouring the loud approach lately, especially as it gives rise to moments like these, as I traded out jokers with the vanilla HUD functionality and left my previous one attached to a wall, upside down throwing gang signs. Say what you will, this video game is unmatched. It's Bane's turn to go all Hitman on this heist, chucking the CFO out of his chopper for a bit of a bone-crunching landing, and to probably get us the code to the vault, which I used to open her up and immediately explode the roof turret inside. That's about the apex of this one's resistance, easily shuttling the 8 bags of diamonds to the zipline with a bit of help from the cops who unwittingly moved them closer, clearing this one without much event. Thanks to all the XP boosters, that dings us to level 100, meaning this is as powerful as I'll ever be, getting there far faster than on any previous run, which has undoubtedly been a build advantage. Reservoir Dogs Day 2 is always a breeze, speeding through this time thanks to locating the diamonds in the first unit I sawed open, going back in time to Day 1, where for the first time in a long time I'm actually confident going into the initial ambush, and for good reason. I repelled 5 dozers in the first couple of minutes of this one, hacking the box out in the open and just barely making it further in thanks to my FAKs. This heist gets exponentially easier from here, despite zapping myself with a rigged vault, but at least the RNG variation means there's no nasty ambush or gas inside, blasting my way in and moving the bags to the zipline, which somehow wasn't covered at all by the snipers that had spawned in, meaning the dominant strategy was just to leave them alive to keep pushing for victory. I got into a nice rhythm with this one, but was again absolutely spared a keyboard smasher when this black dozer dropped me out of nowhere when he was meant to be retreating, with feigned death deciding to keep me breathing. I was completely pinned down after joining the final bags of diamonds at Mr. Blonde's car, but again the 5-7 proved its worth by disabling the SWAT van turret through this apparently indestructible glass window, making one final dash to the exit, finding the sniper who was meant to be doing his job earlier, and taking out the few dozers set to meet me before they even got their bearings. On the final straight now with Brooklyn Bank, clearing this ambush with relative ease after the struggle in LA. I swear I've started playing sloppier after getting all those hand-me-outs from feigned death though, as even on this relative layup of a heist, the green dozer managed to clothesline me, showing how frail I still am. I also forgot to buy assets, which means a bit of an ammo struggle, which also led to a broken nose and second opportunity for Lady Luck to toy with me, deciding that was enough to lock in and pay attention to the final couple of minutes of the drill, blasting the floor of the vault and using the watch to skip this 20-second interaction, learning that was possible thanks to the saw run. The final stealth-only heist is up next in Breaking Feds, which the geckos ruined for me for the second time as the cam guard's body was launched skyward and apparently into the line of sight of a passing guard a few minutes later, right in front of Garrett, who, as much as it would be fitting to deal with here and now, is not on the table. Neutrality is aside, the side of the status quo, so I'm not going to rock the boat with any fancy strategies to blow him up or anything right as the heist is about to end, and instead just run this one back on the opposite side of the lobby, using up a pager early and having to launch him out the way, but that's fine when we need to pick up at least 4 kills. I much prefer this RNG setup, with the spy cams keeping tabs on the guards patrolling the office, making it inside and securing the coffer on the second attempt after Locke gave me the wife clue. A couple more bullets before heading to the escape means we make it out of this one with just enough blood in our hands under the cover of an ECM. Henry's Rock is next, probably the toughest remaining heist within the campaign, barring the White House itself. With a bit of luck though, it's not too bad at least, rolling into the PC room hack RNG, which is pretty much ideal. Once I had my hands on coffer number 1, it was just a matter of securing it, where we get to see exactly how quietly solid a full Hitman build can be. The fact that I was able to survive not only this initial damage assault with a full armor reset, but then also absorb this taser's aggro and survive that electrocution all in the space of about 5 seconds is quite impressive all things considered, and as a bullseye focused armor gating playstyle, it actually directly aligns with my preferred way to play. I didn't waste the second chance it gave me here either, moving on to the Archives objective, which is my other preferred location in this compound, grabbing coffer number 2 and returning to the open entrance. Here I made full use of my relatively prodigious DPS, at least by this series standards, to wipe out one of the base defense turrets by my own hand before hacking the other into submission, and opening up a window to escape, juggling a final few FAKs on the helipad to make it out of this one on the first attempt. Hybrid Stealth is the name of the game over on Shacklethorne Auction, going out of my way to take out the camera guard just to ensure I can hack the storage control boxes without their extended duration. Again, the chronometer is a perfect tech here, giving us instant access to the blowtorch before securing the keycard from the auctioneer and taking things into Loud. Of course, Shacklethorne wastes no time with its cascading spawns, actually pushing me back up this staircase and again at the mercy of the whims of feigned death. At least that was a one-off scare on this one though, securing the code to the vault and with it the obsidian plate in under 10 minutes, just about surviving this dozer rush with as fast a trigger finger as I can muster, easily holding out the final couple of minutes of this one for a clean enough getaway. Directly onto Hell's Island, where the Chimano compacts again get to reign supreme on what is effectively just a combat-centric heist. With absolutely no hold-ups in the first half of this one, it all pretty much comes down to speed during the lock escort section, but this time I have a secret weapon. The Molotov cocktail, which generally doesn't see usage outside of Zerk setups, is actually just an excellent choke point killer, holding back all 3 in my inventory for the moment the clear the area objective popped, which requires kill volume to move Locke onwards. Seeing him push forward in what has to be record time, a strategy I'll definitely be keeping in mind for future runs, as this has been a bit of a tough DPS check for certain builds and rule sets. With the route up to the escape helipad in Burning Hellfire and a Hansel and Gretel style set of FAKs covering my path forward, this one was all but a formality, jumping to the chopper with known body carrying mime, Vernon Locke. No Mercy is generally a non-event at this stage of the run, as much as the game attempted to chuck as many dozers as possible at me within the first couple of minutes, not to mention the entire legion of regular beat cops who have been my kryptonite on this run so far, needing to roll another feigned death save at the end of it all. But I got it together from there, with the 5-7 ripping through entire crowds in the hospital hallways. Naturally, in exchange for the feigned death proc, the patient was located in the final hospital room I sawed open, meaning this turned into quite the impressive bloodbath, landing almost 600 kills across just a 23-minute heist. That's about 25 per minute if you were counting, making this probably the most emphatic completion of any run, probably living up to the Agent 47 name. Honestly, my reflection on this one is that Hitman as a perk deck on Death Wish actually feels like it hones in on some of the core skills required for that jump up in difficulty to death sentence. With its frailty and heavy reliance on armor gating to survive, key mechanics you're probably going to need to understand if you want to conquer the hardest heists of this game. So my advice is that if you want to practice for death sentence while still keeping the training wheels on somewhat, you can do a lot worse than this Hitman setup. Personally, I just love playing high damage, low survivability builds, even if it does get my blood pressure up in the challenge run format. It's like the reverse of my previous run with the Saw and Stoic, from which I really needed a detox. But with that said, we can finally move on to the White House, the ultimate challenge for this build, which, as is tradition now, I'll be taking on in loud at least once. And it looked like this might be the simplest clear of this one in years of challenge running, making it to the POC after going loud from minute 1 with 10 FAKs and a full set of downs remaining. But it wouldn't be long until the cops down in this claustrophobic shitshow started to get their kicks in. First, distracted by the roof turret spawns, I found myself saved by the good graces of RNG. Then, again, as I was slowly pushed up the stairs and away from the vault, I fell for a second time, just to the pressure of a Reinfeld dozer. Lastly, with just one down remaining, I was again dropped with 20 seconds left on the final hack, blindsided by an LMG dozer who just appeared outside of view. On each occasion, I resigned myself to my fate, but no, time after time I was picked up off the floor, unable to make peace with the possibility of a long stealth run back. With each down, the odds of completion seemed slimmer, but somehow after over 30 minutes of back and forth, I had the 24 pardons in the bag, needing only to survive one final assault, but with just a single FAK remaining for insurance. Up on the front lawn, I set up next to the anti-air device, dropping that final bit of healing as a precaution as I fell again to the sepia tones of low life. With the hack complete though, Locke was on his way. Somehow, against all odds, a first time, what the hell was that? Slowing it down, I don't understand how this melee strike knocked me out of the FAK's range. In fact, I'm not even sure it did. I just don't think uppers can kick in on grey screen, which is certainly news to me, resulting in possibly the most painful heist loss I can recollect. An absolute epic ending with a gut punch, but sadly I need to pick myself up and go again, switching over to stealth this time as my heart couldn't take another POC standoff. Attempt 1 saw me use up my 4 mandatory kills up in the west wing, which turned out to be a mistake as it left me wide open to get spotted from the balcony, an always frustrating way to fail this one. Resetting to actually bring along the career high this time, attempt 2 saw me make that same mistake again, leaving me pageless by the time I made it to the POG, accidentally landing on this guard's head and needing to reset once more. However, third time's a charm, maneuvering through the first 2 sets of objectives as a pacifist thanks to the added intel provided by the spy cam equipment, before arriving at the POC with full bloodlust this time, taking out all 3 of the standard security in addition to the late arrival to ensure a full set of pages still used up. Simply need to wait out the remaining hack time. In truth, it feels like we won a long time ago. This is maintenance, and with those pardons in my hand once more, I was finally able to return to Locke unchallenged this time to not only complete the heist, but also the run. Well, that was certainly an eventful one, with bugs I've never seen cropping up across the challenge just to keep me on my toes. Payday 2 always finds a way, like when they just announced that Sidetrack have produced an entirely new engine branch, Diesel 3.0, which brings absolutely unlimited potential to what they can do with it in the future. Really excited to see what this means for Payday and, of course, these runs. That being said, this was the fastest I've ever completed the challenge run from start to finish. The gameplay was just kinda compelling from my perspective. I actually had a blast with it, and I'm at least somewhat of a convert on Hitman, although I still don't see myself bringing it over to death sentence. Save that for the pros. Once more guys, I want to thank you for your tremendous support on this series over the years. The future really does look the brightest I can recollect. If you're just getting into PC gaming and in the market for your own top tier PC, do check out my range from the guys over at Apex, found in the link at the top of the description. Have a great day, and I'll see you all very soon.
A huge thank you to my dedicated Patreon backers. If you want to join this crew in going infamous, check out the link below and pledge as little as $2 to see your name in the credits, or get 24-hour early access to future videos and vote on upcoming content. Take care, I'll see you all soon.